Hey everybody, it's Charles for HumbleMechanic.com, and today we are talking oil filters. Alright everybody, today, like I said, we're talking oil changes and oil filters. What you're looking at here is my wife's 2008 Nissan Frontier. The folks at Purolator were good enough to send me an oil filter to do an oil change on the Nissan and write a review for you guys and talk a little bit about their filters. Now, I've actually been using Purolator filters for about 12 years now. I first started using them on my 1997 Integra, I think. Used them on my Mitsubishi. Once I started working at the dealership, I switched to factory filters purely out of laziness so that I didn't have to go to the store and buy one. But I'm going to show you guys how to do an oil change on this 2008 Nissan Frontier. So here's the drain plug. I have a drain bucket underneath so that I don't make a giant mess. I like to crack the drain plug loose, bring the pan underneath, and I always twist these out by hand if I can. And the reason is that gives me an opportunity to check the threads of the plug. You'll see right here I got a little bit of oil dripping out. I'm going to go ahead and pull this plug out. And if you notice, that came out really smooth, really easy, no struggles. If you run into a situation where the drain plug is hard to get out, cleaning up the threads with a thread chaser is a really good idea. The threads on oil pans do wear out over time, so the better condition you can keep those, the less likely you'll be to have to make a repair. And there you have it. That's how you drain the oil in a vehicle. Quick tip, make sure that you dispose of this oil responsibly. You can contain it and take it to just about anywhere that deals in automotive chemicals. I know O'Reilly Auto Parts and I think Advanced Auto, they'll dispose of that for you for free. Alright, while that finishes draining, I'm going to step behind the camera and just talk a little bit about the filter. This is the filter that Purolator did send to me. It's their synthetic special filter. It's hard to see, but if you look at the texture of it, it's glittery. That's actually a rough surface so that you can get a better grip on it while you're loosening it or tightening it. You'll see the reddish orange, I'm not really sure what color that is. That's the drain back valve so that when you shut the car off, all the oil doesn't drain out of the filter. And the media inside of this filter is actually encased in a metal cage, which is really cool too. I think this is their top of the line filter. This is the filter, or the similar version of the filter that I had always used before. Even their lower models are still pretty good looking filters. Their middle class one has that drain back valve as well. But if you're going to go with it, go with the higher end filter. These I think are rated for 10,000 mile oil changes. I don't wait that long to change my oil, but that's just me. I know a lot of the newer cars are 10,000 miles plus in between oil changes, so definitely the filters will hold up. Alright, now that the oil is about drained, I'm going to go ahead and install the drain plug. Just like that. Just like I install them, or remove them, I install them by hand and turn them in till it stops, till it's finger tight. Don't use impact tools on drain plugs. That's a really good way to tear up your oil pan. Also, one other thing, make sure you know how tight you need to tighten this. If this were a Volkswagen, I'd be tightening it to 30 Newton meters. Nissans are about the same. Now, I didn't put a torque wrench on that because I torque drain plugs all day long, so I got a pretty good idea of how tight that needs to be. I also like to wipe any drip off the pan because I sure don't want that drippage in my driveway. Alright, now that we got the oil drained out of the oil pan, we're going to move on to the filter. This car happens to have a cover that covers up where the oil filter's at. So I'm going to go ahead and zip that cover off. That noise was probably obnoxious, so I'm sorry about that. Once I get that cover off, the oil filter is actually up here. Let me see if I can get you guys a better view of that. Bear with me here. So I come around. if you look right in this, up this way, that's where the oil filter is in this car. You can see that little drain pan, that's to keep oil from getting trapped in this pan right here. So I'm gonna, as you guys can tell, I'm still at work, so sorry about that. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and remove that oil filter. Oil changes are something that are pretty easy to do. I think it's just more intimidating than anything. These are the oil filter pliers that I generally use on this style of filter. Like I said, they're more intimidating than anything because you really can do some severe damage to your car by messing up an oil change. But it's super easy, something that I think just about everybody can do themselves. The key is just not to hurry. You know, if you're doing this at the house or somewhere, you know, not in a professional environment like I do, there's really no need to rush through it. Take your time, you know, give your car a good look over while you're underneath it. Try and keep your mess to a minimum. Now you see all that oil dripping down. That's something I'm gonna have to clean because I didn't wait. When you take an oil filter off, when you take an oil filter off, take a look right here. See that black seal? You need to make sure that that's still on there. If you were to leave that on the oil filter mating surface, you'll actually wind up installing 2 gaskets, and despite how great that sounds, it's really bad and it makes a huge mess. Another quick tip I like to do is with the filter like this. There's already a ton of oil on my fingers. Just run your finger around with a little bit of fresh oil or dirty oil. It really doesn't matter as long as there's not dirt particles. Just to get a little lubrication on that. You can even do something like this. Then I always double check the mating surface anyway. Even if I know the filter gasket is still on, I like to look up here and make sure it's gone, which we verified that it is. And I'm gonna get this filter up here and spin it right on. This filter is basically the exact same as the factory size, thread pitch. Give it a good snug. You don't need to really crank down on it. That's about as tight as I need to tighten it. Notice I didn't use any tools to put it on. There's no need to use tools to put the filter on. Alright, now that I got the filter replaced, it's time to clean up that oil mess that I made. I sure don't want that dripping on my driveway, or, you know, if this were a customer's car, I sure as heck wouldn't want it dripping on their driveway. That tends to make people really mad, and I don't blame them. So I'm going to hit this with some brake clean and try and not soak my camera in brake clean. Make sure I get all that oil off, and I'll wind up wiping that down as well before I lower the car. I won't make you guys sit through that, but I think I got all the oil that I dripped. Nissan got it almost perfect with that drip tray. It's like they just missed the mark on having it so that it didn't make any mess at all. But compared to the oil changes that I do on Volkswagens all day long, I'll take this no problem. So wipe all that out, get all that oil out of there. You notice I used a fair amount of brake clean. If this were a job at the house, you could probably take measures to not make such a mess with paper towels, or there's a brand of oil absorbent mats called pig mats that are really great. So that's it. I'm going to run this cover back on. That pretty much sums it up. I'm going to top this baby up with some oil. I'm going to also check my power steering fluid, my coolant, top up the washer fluid, check the brake fluid. All that stuff is something we want to do every time you change the oil. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the link in the video and check out the blog post that I did about it. I'll have all those tips that I had mentioned earlier written down so that you don't have to remember any of them. You can just refer to that every time you change your oil. Alright, sorry about that weird editing. My iPhone is actually full of videos. So, I don't know if you've seen my last video that I did about my Cabrio brakes, but I had to stop 3 times because the stinking iPhone overheated. So I guess it's time to upgrade to a big boy camera. Anyway, any questions, shoot me an email, charles@humblemechanic.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, any of those things. Visit humblemechanic.com. I'll have links to all those places where you guys can connect with me. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Good luck changing your oil.